Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. All right, today I want to talk about the stolen refunds, you guys. Okay. So over the weekend, I was in one of my tax groups, and there was someone shared a very long story about someone who went to a very popular tax franchise and had her refund stolen. But unfortunately, it is very, very common. And so I want to talk about, like, how is this happening and the things that you can do to protect yourself. Because at the end of the day, the majority of tax professionals really are professionals, but you get that small percentage, that shady bunch that makes it bad for everybody. So, so this is why I want to talk about the things that you can do. But, and I will say this, at the end of the day, if somebody is intent on getting you, you can try to protect yourself as much as possible, but sometimes you just get got. That's the way it is. But I want to just share with you some things that are happening and things that you can do. Okay. So number one is, first, if you're getting a direct deposit, you want to make sure that it's your bank information that is on the direct deposit. I have a client that I got last year whose tax preparer stole her refund by having her refund deposited into that tax preparer's bank account. There is zero reason why your tax refund should be deposited into that tax preparer's bank account. Zero. Even if you're having the fees taken out, there are bank products for that to allow that to happen, and that does not require your tax refund going into that tax preparer's bank account. Okay, so it's either your information or no information. Okay, that's how it works. And if there is an issue with that, where someone says, okay, well, I need to put my stuff in here, you need to take your stuff and you need to walk away and quick, fast, and in a hurry. Okay. And on top of that, in number two is also with tax preparer fraud. Okay. Where you've got, so when you go to tax franchises, okay, let me say this. When you go to tax franchises, 9 times out of 10, the person sitting there is someone who has taken a tax class and passed. These companies try really hard to hire good people, but you know what? It doesn't always happen. They do background checks, but it's also probably a local background check. And what does that mean? When you do a local background check, the local background check is just for maybe that county or maybe for the state. It's not a nationwide thing. So, and just to give you an example, like I had to get a background check done just last week. And I asked for a copy of the background report because I've never seen one. So they said I could get one. Okay, great. But when I looked, they only looked for my current county. Well, I've only been here for 6 months. So that's really not going to do anybody any good if they didn't look at my previous states or do a nationwide check. And so this is why I say, companies try very hard to hire good people, but those background checks don't always tell the truth. So I want you to also try to separate the person from the company, because I see people saying, okay, well, I'm never going to this company again. I'm never going to that company again. You know what? The companies try to do their best. They don't always know who they get. Okay. That's the long and short of it. So, in the story that I was telling you about, there was a young lady who went to a particular tax franchise and to get a refund advance. And she was given a card, but then the tax preparer actually had the money being sent to another card. Okay. And so the tax preparer then, that's stealing. Okay. And so what I want you as the consumer to know is that you need to report these things, because getting your money back is going to be a very time consuming process. The IRS isn't going to just issue you another refund because your refund was stolen. You're going to have to go through the drama of filing the police report, pressing charges and all of that. And then even for the IRS, that's going to take weeks and possibly even months to get rectified. But if you don't file the police report, if you don't press charges, then you may never get your money back at all. And it also, you may not get your money back until that other person pays it back. So if you never prosecute them, then they can never be held liable to return what they've stolen. So again, it's not the company, it's the person. So this is why I tell you it's important to build a relationship with the people that do your taxes. Because when you go to these companies and you got Bob this year, you got Sue this year, you got Jack next year, you look over your tax returns if you have a copy and you've got like 14 different people who've done your taxes. You've never built a relationship with one person. One person is going to know if there are changes in your tax situation. They're going to know if something looks off and that kind of thing. So you really got to know who is doing your taxes, right? But even still, if, people go through elaborate schemes to steal money, okay, that's just the truth. A thief will do that. There was, a case, I want to say it was out west somewhere. I don't remember the state, but this tax preparer was taking advantage of immigrants, right? People that have immigrated here, that have worked hard. They're, coming to file their taxes. They don't know our tax system. They don't know how things work. And he stole $800,000 over the course of 4 years from these people because they didn't know. So a thief is going to go through a lot to steal your money. So this is what I'm saying, that you really have to, really work to know who you're dealing with. And, and even still, and especially if you get people who, file those fraudulent tax returns, those fraudulent Schedule C's, and then, the IRS finds out that, they've been fraudulent. And so they're not going to come back to you to redo those returns and get the money that you were not supposed to get to begin with. Okay. That can be really ugly. So you got to know who you're dealing with and also know what goes in your tax return. All right. Fraudulent deposits. There was a scam that the IRS brought to the forefront where people would, a deposit would show up in their bank account. A fraudulent tax refund would show up in their bank account. And then they would get a call from the IRS saying, hey, we erroneously deposited this money into your bank account. You need to wire that money back to us. Okay, first of all, the IRS does not call you. Okay, that's not their initial point of contact. It is never with a phone call. They always send letters via postal service. Okay, and even there are even letters. They're getting really good and duplicating letters from the IRS. So even if you get a letter from the IRS, you need to call the IRS directly to confirm that this letter is for you. And it also takes you knowing your tax situation as well, because if you get a letter saying, okay, hey, you owe us this money, and if you don't send it to us by this date and this address and whatever, we're going to call the cops and all that, or you get those types of phone calls, you got to know your tax situation. And number two, you need to call the IRS directly or call an enrolled agent or a CPA to help you deal with this stuff. Because, once the money is gone, getting it back is one of the most difficult, if not impossible things ever. Okay, that's the thing. So with this scam, they deposit this money into your bank account. You get a phone call saying, hey, we made this mistake and deposited this money. You need to send it back to us wire this money back to us. Then when you wire the money, it's gone. That's what it is, right? Okay, the next one, and this is my fourth one, is fraudulent checks. There are being fraudulent checks issued from the IRS. Okay, so if you get a check from the IRS and you didn't ask for a check and it's not the right amount, the first thing that you need to do is what? Call the IRS. Okay, because you want to verify that, hey, this isn't, there's something wrong here. And then once you verify that, you want to void that check out. Don't deposit it. Okay. That's the last thing you want to do. Don't deposit that check if you know something is fishy. Okay. Or if you even suspect something is fishy. Do not go and deposit a check if you weren't supposed to be getting a check to begin with, right? Because most people get direct deposit. So the thing about it is that you have to know that tax refund theft, this is one of the scammiest times of the year. It's not just the holiday season, but it's also tax refund season, right? You have to, also be ready to file your taxes, right? The sooner you file your taxes, the less amount of time you have for scammers to get a hold of your information. This is why I tell you, don't be on social media asking personally identifiable questions. You might think it's fun and games, and 9 times out of 10, it probably is, but when you think about like when you do one of those fun things like where you met your spouse and all of that stuff, when you think about security questions that you answer on your different sites, those are some of those same questions. What was your first car? What was the make and model? All that stuff. That's personally identifiable information. So I'm going to caution you to not be so loosey-goosey on social media with answering those types of questions, because all of that information out there allows a scammer to put a picture together of you that will allow them to then steal from you. They'll steal your identity. And so if someone steals your identity and then files taxes, then you, the taxpayer, the real person, have to go through the drama of proving that you are the person that you say you are and that the other person was a fraud. So that's why, listen, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And unfortunately, you can't get an identity theft pin from the IRS until after your identity has been stolen. That is still causes heartburn with me. And I hope that someday the IRS says, hey, if you want an identity theft pin, then, apply to get one or something, right? Because you want to have something that says, hey, this particular number is what identifies me as me. Okay. So that's it. And so, like what happens, like if your, refund doesn't get to you when it's supposed to, the first thing you want to do is you want to go to IRS.gov and click on where's my refund. And so it will tell you if your refund has been issued or if your refund has been held or if it's being processed or what. That's the first thing. And so then if you go and see that your refund has been issued, but it hasn't gotten to you within, X amount of time, then you need to call the IRS or call Taxpayer Advocate to put a trace on that refund. So yes, this is gonna take time. Like I said, it's not gonna be where you call the IRS or something and say, hey, my refund isn't here, and they say, okay, great, we're gonna send you some more money. No. It is going to take time and effort. So this is why you need to go through those steps. You have to, file the police reports if your refund has been stolen. Prosecute those fools. You can go and issue a complaint about a tax preparer if they've done something like this. There's all sorts of stuff that's out there, you guys. And, hey, you just have to keep your eyes open. And at the end of the day, if something doesn't feel right, then walk away. And I even had this happen to me, you guys. It was the funniest thing ever. I was working at a tax franchise. I was the opening person. And there was a lady that came in who wanted to have her taxes filed. And then she saw that I was sitting there by myself. And she was like, this looks like a scam. I'm out of here. And she left. And I don't blame her, right? Because to her, it didn't feel right because I was the only person there. And like, there's, it wasn't, the hustle and bustle of the season. So, at the end of the day, she did what felt right to her to keep herself safe. And that's what you have to do. I didn't take it personally. I thought it was funny. I didn't take it personally though, because you have to do what's right for you to make you feel comfortable. So if something don't feel right, ain't no explanations needed. Walk away and go somewhere else where you feel more comfortable. Okay? So that's it for today's episode of Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish, and you can come right here. You can book a complimentary consult right here to get your questions answered. All right? Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.